Hi guys, welcome to another fairy tale video. Today we have a longer story, which is called The 12 Brothers. 12 is kind of a magic number, so I'm curious what it's about. I know it from stories like Cinderella and stuff, but it's always girls, I think. It's the first time I hear of 12 boys. So let's see what it's about. Once upon a time there was a king who had 12 children, all boys. Moreover, he didn't want to have a daughter and said to his wife, "If you give birth to a 13th child and it's a girl, I shall have the 12 boys killed. However, if it's a boy, then they'll all remain alive and stay together." The queen thought of talking him out of this, but the king refused to hear anything more about this topic. "If everything turns out like I said, they must die. I'd rather chop off their heads myself than let a girl be among them." The queen was sad about this, because she loved her sons with all her heart and didn't know how she could save them. Finally, she went to the youngest, who was her favorite, and revealed him what the king had decided. "Dearest child," she said, "go into the forest with your 11 brothers. Stay there and don't come home. One of you should keep watch on a tree and look over here toward the tower. If I give birth to a little son, I'll raise a white flag on top of the tower. However, if it's a little daughter, I'll raise a red flag. If you all see it's red, then save yourselves. Flee into the wide world, and may our dear Lord protect you. I'll get up every night and pray that you won't freeze in the winter and you are able to warm yourselves by a fire, and that when it's hot in the summer, you can rest in a cool forest and sleep." After she gave her blessing to the sons, they went out in the forest, where they frequently looked toward the tower. One of them had to sit on the top of a high tree and constantly keep watch. Soon a flag was hoisted, but it wasn't a white one. It was a blood-red flag that foreshadowed their doom. As soon as the brothers caught sight of it, they all became angry and cried out, "Why should we lose our lives because of a girl?" Then they all swore to remain in the middle of the forest and to keep on their guard. And if a maiden were to appear, they would kill her without mercy. Soon after this, they searched for a cave where the forest was the darkest, and that's where they began to live. Every morning 11 of the brothers went out to hunt. One of them had to remain at home, cook and keep house. Whenever they encountered a maiden, she was treated without mercy and lost her life. This is how they lived for many years. In the meantime, their little sister grew up and was the only child left home. One day there was a large amount of washing to do, and among the clothes there were 12 shirts for boys. "Whose shirts are these?" the princess asked the washerwoman. "They're much too small for my father." It was then that the washerwoman told her that she had once had 12 brothers, but they had mysteriously gone away. Nobody knew where, because the king had wanted to have killed them, and the 12 shirts belonged to the 12 brothers. The little sister was astonished that she had never heard of her 12 brothers, and during the afternoon, as the clothes were drying and she was sitting in the meadow, she recalled the words of the washerwoman. After giving considerable thought to what she had heard, she stood up, took the 12 shirts, and went into the forest where the brothers were living. The little sister made her way straight to the cave that served as their brothers' dwelling. 11 of them were out hunting, and only one of them, who had to cook, was at home. When he caught sight of the maiden, he composed himself and drew his sword. "Kneel down, your red blood will flow this very second." But the maiden pleaded, "Dear sir, let me live. I'll stay with you and serve you honestly. I'll cook and keep house." She spoke these words to the youngest brother, and he took pity of her because of her beauty and spared her life. Later, when his 11 brothers returned home and were astonished to find a maiden alive in their cave, he said to them, "Dear brothers, this girl came to our cave, and when I wanted to cut her to pieces, she pleaded for her life so much and said that she would serve us faithfully and keep house that I spared her life." The others thought that this would be a great benefit to them because now all 12 of them could go hunting, and they were satisfied with this agreement. Then the maiden showed them the 12 shirts and told them that she was their sister. Indeed, they were all very happy about this and were glad that they didn't kill her. Now the little sister took over all the household chores, and when the brothers were out hunting, she gathered wood and herbs, kept the fire going, made up the beds nice and white and clean, and did everything with zeal and without getting tired. One day, when she was finished with all the work, she took a walk in the woods and came to a place where there were 12 large, beautiful white lilies. Since they pleased her so much, she plucked all 12 of them. No sooner did she do this than an old woman stood before her. "Oh, my daughter," she said, "why didn't you let the 12 budding flowers just stand there? They're your 12 brothers. Now they've been changed into ravens and are lost forever." The little sister began to weep and said, "Isn't there any way that I can save them?" "No, there isn't any way in the world except one that's so difficult you won't be able to rescue them. You must spend the next 12 years without speaking. If you say one single word, even if there's only an hour left, everything will be in vain, and your brothers will die that very moment." Well, the little sister responded by climbing a tree in the forest, where she took a place. She wanted to sit there 12 years without saying a word to free her brothers. But it so happened that the king was out riding and hunting in the forest. And as he rode by the tree, his dog stood still and barked. So the king stopped, looked up, and was very amazed by the princess' beauty. He called her and asked her whether she wanted to become his wife. However, she remained silent and only nodded a bit with her head. So the king himself dismounted, helped her down from the tree, and lifted her up before him onto his horse. Then he brought her home to his castle. Meanwhile, the princess did not utter one word, and the king thought that she was mute. They would have lived happily with one another if it hadn't been for the king's mother, who began to slander the young queen in front of her son. "She's a common beggar that you've dug out from nowhere, and she's doing the most disgraceful things behind your back." Since the young queen couldn't defend herself, the king was led astray and finally believed what his mother said. So he sentenced his wife to death, and an enormous fire was built in the courtyard, where she was to be burned to death. Soon the queen was standing in the flames that grazed the fringes of her dress. 1 minute was left before the 12 years of her silence would become completed. There was a noise in the air, and the 12 raisins swooped down into the courtyard. As soon as they touched the ground, they became 12 handsome princes, who instantly put out the fire's flames and led their sister to safety. Then she spoke once again and told the king how everything had happened and how she had to save her 12 brothers. Indeed, they were all pleased that everything turned out so well. Now they had to decide what they should do with the evil mother-in-law. Well, they stuck her into a barrel full of boiling oil and poisonous snakes, and she died a ghastly death. The end. Wow, guys, what is it with the burning wives? Seriously, why not a different way? I don't know, why do they want to burn their wives? But I think it's the best way to save someone last minute. And it's the second time someone was stuck in a barrel. Like, seriously, why those? But anyway, that's the end of the story. I hope you had fun. You know that if you like them, you could subscribe and at least give them a thumbs up. That would make me so happy. And then we would see each other in I'm leaving that in now, so you know how often I make these crazy mistakes. We will see each other in the next video. Bye!